We are going to dual boot Windows 11 Pro and Linux Mint using this new out-of-the-box AceMagic M1 mini PC. Stick around. I put up a poll letting you choose the next video, and you chose Windows 11 and Linux dual boot. To do that, we're going to use this new M1 mini PC that AceMagic sent over to me. I thought, let's do it straight out of the box as if you had just bought a new PC and you wanted to dual boot Windows and Linux. If this little AceMagic M1 looks familiar, it's because it looks exactly like the K1 that I recently reviewed. As far as the case goes, identical as far as what's in the box. So I'm not going to do an unboxing. If you want to see what comes in the box, I'll link the video for the K1. The big difference is in the hardware. So I'm going to spend under 2 minutes telling you about the hardware in the new M1, and then we will jump right into the dual boot setup. Check this out. The AceMagic M1 mini PC is a compact, high-performance computer designed for gaming, professional office tasks, and content creation. It is powered by the AMD Ryzen 7 7735HS processor with 8 cores, 16 threads, and up to 4.75 GHz based on the Zen 3 Plus architecture. For graphics, it uses the integrated AMD Radeon 680M with 12 GPU cores running up to 2200 MHz. The system comes with 24 GB of high-speed LPDDR5 RAM running at 5500 megatransfers per second. While the RAM is on board and cannot be expanded, it includes a 1 TB NVMe SSD out of the box, which can be expanded up to 4 TB across its two M.2 slots. Built for high-efficiency workflows, it can run 3 4K monitors simultaneously at 60 Hz using its HDMI 2.0 port, DisplayPort, and full-function USB Type-C port. It features a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, Wi-Fi 6, and Bluetooth 5.2. The port array includes 2 fast 10 gigabits per second USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports on the front, 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports on the back, and a 3.5mm audio jack. The M1 features a lightweight, durable metal chassis that fits in the palm of your hands. To maintain performance, it uses an ultra-quiet 4D cooling system with a high-speed fan and dual exhausts, designed to run at just 38 decibels. It comes pre-installed with Windows 11 Pro and is fully compatible with Linux. Alright, that's the hardware we're going to use. Now, I'm not going to show the regular out-of-the-box process. I have my own Windows installation that's pre-configured with all of my settings. It's my ultimate installation disk. If you want to see a video on how I created this, drop me a comment below. I'm going to go ahead and load my Windows installation on the new mini PC. We'll do some prep work in Windows to prepare for the dual boot, and then we'll download Linux and we'll set it up. Now, I did do some benchmarks. Through the power of video editing, I've already done that. And there's some very interesting results between these two mini PCs. Check this out. Now, you might be surprised to see the K1 beating out the M1 in single-core performance. The K1 pulls a 2225, while the M1 hits 2036. This is down to Intel's P cores. These are dedicated performance cores built specifically for raw, bursty speed, making the K1 feel slightly snappier when you're just opening apps or loading web pages. But look what happens when we switch to the multi-core results. The M1's Ryzen 7 7735HS absolutely takes over. Because it's packed with 8 full performance cores, it delivers a massive 8898 multi-core score, beating out the K1 6214. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hook this up, boot it up, and I'll meet you in Windows. Make sure you have your flash drive for Linux. You don't need a very big one. If you have an 8 gig laying around, that'll work just fine. So let's go ahead and jump into Windows. Wait, before we jump in, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, like and share, or even become a channel member. It really helps me out. All right, let's go. Okay, now that we are in Windows, we need to start the process of making sure that Windows is set up to properly dual boot with Linux in secure boot mode. So the first thing we're going to do is verify that secure boot is enabled, and we can do that without having to go into our BIOS. I have a list here of some PowerShell commands we'll be using. Now, so you don't have to try to hit pause and copy this stuff down, I'm going to show you a neat little trick that was added into the Windows snipping tool last year. Open up the Windows snipping tool, copy all of the text here. This little button right here, the OCR, what it's going to do is it's going to identify all of the text in the image, and then you can copy it. Do a Control-A, do a right-click, copy text, and just go open you up a notepad, and you can copy the text directly into a notepad from the image. All right, once you have these commands, we'll get rid of all this stuff. I'm going to use my command here to confirm secure boot. I'm going to go open up PowerShell. If yours doesn't populate, just type in PowerShell in the search box. Make sure this is important you run as administrator, otherwise you'll get an error. I'm going to copy that command here and just press enter. It returned the value of true, so I know that secure boot is enabled. The next thing we need to do is to make sure that our BIOS supports verified third-party UEFI CA trust that allows secure boot to trust third-party bootloaders outside of Windows, and that needs to be active for this to work properly. So I'm going to run that command, which is the one right below the confirm secure boot. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to hit enter, and it also returns the value of true. So both things are true for me, so we're good there. So the next thing we want to do is to disable BitLocker encryption. Now, if you're on an older version of Windows 11 Home, this may not be enabled, but it very well can be, especially if you're logged in using a Microsoft account. If you're using Windows 11 Pro like I am, it's likely going to be enabled by default. There's a couple of different ways you can verify that. You can come down here to type in BitLocker. And again, this may not bring up anything if you're on a version of Home. You can turn off BitLocker here. Mine says turn on because it's already off. Another way to verify is to go to Disk Management. Look at your main Volume C here and see if it says BitLocker encrypted. Mine does not. That needs to be disabled. You do not want to be in a situation to where BitLocker locks your hard drive down because of the Linux installation. You can very well get locked out for good unless you have access to the encryption key. So we're definitely going to turn that off. Even though I know that mine is turned off, I'll run the PowerShell command here. So I'm going to copy that, open my PowerShell back up, and you can see there my volume status is fully decrypted and my protection status is off. So BitLocker is not enabled on my system. Now the next thing we're going to do is turn off fast startup. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about fast startup and what it actually does. So when you click shutdown, it doesn't actually shut down your computer. It puts it in more of a hibernate state. Problem with that is if you have a hardware driver that's failed, it'll use the snapshot that it's taken of that state to reload your system each time. I had that problem with my Bluetooth adapter disappearing, and I had to turn off fast startup and do a power down and reboot everything back up. Go watch that video if you want more details on that. So same thing for here. We're going to go ahead and disable that so that it doesn't impact that Linux installation. Now to do that, we're just going to go to Control Panel. From Control Panel, we're going to go over here to Power Options. From Power Options, we're going to click over here to choose what the power button does. We're going to click Change Settings that are currently unavailable, and we're going to uncheck Turn on Fast Startup, and we're going to click Save Changes. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is set up a partition on our hard drive to install Linux Mint. So I'm going to come over here to my Start menu, right-click, and I'm going to go to Disk Management. I'm going to right-click on my Volume C and click on Shrink Volume. Now right here where it says enter amount of disk space to shrink, I'm going to put 102400. That's basically 100 gigabytes of space that I'm going to allocate for Linux. And then it shows down here what I'll have left after the shrink. I'm going to go ahead and do shrink. And now you can see right here where I have left 100 gigabytes of unallocated space, and we're going to reserve that for Linux. We are now ready to go create our Linux installation media. So make sure that you have a flash drive, and we're going to head over to the Linux download page. So I'm going to get out of this. I'm just going to type in Linux Mint here at the Linux Mint screen. We're on Linux Mint 2.2.3. I'm going to click download, and then you have to choose a version. I'm going to go with Cinnamon Edition, which is the first one here. I'm going to go ahead and click download. There's some information here. You can see the size of the download is 2.9 gigabytes. And then you're just going to come down here and select a download mirror. I'm just going to pick this one here that says Linux Mint. That download has started. I'll fast forward until it's complete. In the meantime, we need to get Rufus so that we can create the Linux installation media. If you don't already have Rufus, just type in Rufus. We're going to go to rufus.ie. Don't click on any of these ads. Go all the way down here and find the latest version. I'm going to download the portable version of 4.13. I'm going to click the download there. That download started up here and it is completed. So since both of our downloads are complete, I'm going to close both of these out and we're going to go to that downloads folder. I'm going to go ahead and open up Rufus. I'm going to click yes, and I'm going to click yes to allow Rufus to update. It's automatically selected the flash drive that I had inserted, the 64 gigabyte drive. Now I'm going to go over here and select that ISO that we just downloaded here. I'm going to double click that. I'm going to change this to GPT for me. Yours should be GPT unless you're using an extremely old version of Windows. And I'm going to go ahead and click start. Rufus is just giving me one of its standard warnings here. I'm going to leave the first option selected and click OK. It's just warning me that it's going to erase the drive. I'm going to click OK. And now Rufus has begun creating the installation media. I'll fast forward until that's completed. All right, now that Rufus is finished, we're going to close that out. Then we're going to go ahead and reboot into that drive. Your boot key will depend on your manufacturer. I'll put up a list of common ones here on the screen, but once you reboot, tap that boot key and make sure you select your flash drive with the installation we just created. For me, I'm going to select the next one down, which is my flash drive, and press enter. I'm going to select the first option here to start Linux Mint. Okay, now that we are on the Mint main screen, we're going to go ahead and go up here to install Linux Mint. Now you can play around with settings before you install it. Make sure that you're not missing anything that should be working. I can see that it's picked up my Wi-Fi and everything else, so I'm good with all of that. I'm going to go ahead and get into the install, and we'll select our language and confirm our keyboard layout. I'm going to go ahead and connect to my Wi-Fi and click continue. I'm going to go ahead and click install multimedia codecs. I need to create a one-time password. This is just for secure boot purposes and it'll come into play a bit later. So just make it something simple. I'm going to click continue. Now we're going to go ahead and click install Linux Mint alongside Windows Boot Manager. It will automatically see that unallocated space that we created for it and install it there. We're going to confirm these changes and click continue. I'm going to select my time zone here. We're going to select Chicago time zone for me. I'm going to click continue. Now this is the information for your actual Linux login. So we're going to enter the name and then create a username and password. I'm going to set mine to login automatically, and then I'm going to select continue. I'll fast forward until the installation is complete. All right, now setup is complete, and now we need to do the final step for making Linux work alongside Windows in secure boot. We're going to do what's called the mock handshake. So when we restart, we're going to come up to the mock enrollment screen, which is going to ask for that first password that we created. So I'm going to go ahead and restart now. We'll do that. And make sure you remove that installation media. Now upon restart, mine booted directly back into Windows 11. And I'm kind of glad it did, so that I could cover that. If that happens to you, you also have a newer BIOS. You're going to have to go into the setup, go over here to boot, and go all the way to the bottom. If you notice here in the fixed boot priority, the only boot manager is Windows. There's no Ubuntu or Linux, right? If you come down here to UEFI NVMe drive BBS priorities, hit enter, and then you'll see boot option 1, boot manager, boot option 2, Ubuntu, which is our Linux. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to change Ubuntu as the first one and Windows Boot Manager as the second one. And then I'm going to hit F4 to save and exit. Now, that one brought me to the screen I was expecting. I'm going to go to the second option that says Enroll Mock, and I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to hit continue again, and then yes. Now we're going to enter that password we created. Now no characters will appear here, which kind of throws you off, but it's okay. Just enter the password and then press enter. And now we're going to select reboot. Now we're going to get this grub menu where we can select Windows Boot Manager or Linux. I'm going to go ahead and boot into Linux. I'm going to type in my Linux password. And now once you're in Linux, you should be at the Welcome to Linux screen. So now we have successfully dual booted Windows 11 Pro and Linux with Secure Boot enabled. Right, now remember back in Windows when I told you to recall that memory usage that was sitting idle at just below 4 gigabytes. So let's see what that is in Linux. We're going to go to System Monitor, which is essentially the Task Manager equivalent. We're going to come over here to Resources, and then right here under Memory, you can see it's just under 2 gigabytes while idle. So essentially half of the memory usage while idle. So let's run that benchmark test again while we're in Linux Mint and see if we get a different result. First, I want to be able to bridge the gap between my Linux and my Windows. So I'm going to download a program called Local Send that I use to send information back and forth to myself. I'm going to open up the software manager here real quick. I'm going to type in Local Send here in the search box. I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to click Install and continue, and I'm going to go ahead and launch Local Send. What this will allow me to do is send files back and forth to myself, and it can already see my other PC that's currently on the network sitting right here next to it. And this way I can send myself some terminal commands. Now here I'm just going to run Geekbench. Once it completes, it will give me a link to post in my browser with the results. And this is the Geekbench result on Linux, so slightly higher scores than on the Windows test, but not by a whole lot. That is all we're going to do today, because this video was just about getting the dual boot set up. Let me know if you want to see a more in-depth detail video on Linux Mint. You can do this the easier way by just disabling Secure Boot and turning off BitLocker. But I wanted to do it the correct way, dual booting with Secure Boot on. If you're looking for a faster, just set it up, no Secure Boot. You can watch the previous video I did where I dual booted Windows and Zorin OS 18. I'll link that below. And there you have it, dual booting Windows and Linux out of the box on a new PC. Shout out to AceMagic for sending us the new M1 to review. I'll drop a link in the description along with a discount code if you're interested. I'll put up another poll and let you choose the video again. Do me a favor, please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel is free and it really helps me grow the channel to get me to that next level. You can also take it a step further and help support the channel by becoming a channel member. Don't forget to check out some of these other video suggestions, and as always, thank you for watching, and until next time.